live stream before. Last time Charlie and Seth took care of all the tech details, so that was great. But we'll jump right in a minute or two. Okay, so here we go. So I am Sara Anderholm, and I am a teacher in Alaska, and then a piano teacher. So I'm also a gigging musician, at least pre-COVID. That's what was going on. I accompany lots of choirs in the Anchorage area, and then I also play with a group called Pamyua, and I also play with various bands and artists in town just as a keyboard hire is needed. And then last of all, obviously songwriting. I love songwriting. I've been songwriting since I was in middle school and I've never stopped since. So it hasn't always been, I've had multiple ways of making music. And okay, so we're good to go. All right, sweet. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is jump into all of the things, the elements that we went over a few weeks ago. Now that we have sound, let's see. Actually, Charlie, let me know about the sound with the keyboard. Can you hear the keys okay, or should they be turned up? Maybe we're okay? Oops. Okay, sweet. Yay! That was the whole goal, getting the sound thing figured out. So we're gonna jump right in. So how do you write a song? Lots of people have already given their description on how to write a song or their idea of how they go about writing songs. There really is no wrong answer, but what to start with can sometimes be daunting, and everybody has a different method on how they start writing songs. I've written a lot of songs on the airplane, believe it or not, and that I would start by writing just lyrics and writing about whatever it was that was on my mind. Sometimes melodies would come to me in while I'm just sitting. I'm not at an instrument. I don't have a guitar. I don't have a keyboard. But then other times I love to improvise on the keyboard and play with instrumentals. So a lot of times my improvisation will turn into a song, and so sometimes the melodies will come that way. I won't have any lyrics to put to it, and so the lyrics will come later. Sometimes that song stays as an instrumental, other times lyrics get put to it. It just really depends on the scenario. So lots of different ways on how to write a song. There is no wrong answer. It's just a way to express whatever it is on your mind or whatever it is that you're feeling and getting it out into music. So one really fun way for when it comes to music is sometimes when you get caught in the it has to be perfect mentality, which when it comes to my own stuff, I can get really stuck in just making everything perfect. I had someone tell me it's about communicating. So I know Philip and Steve Blanchett, they talked about identity, and they talked about story and communicating your story through song. And once I started to understand that music is just another way to tell a story, tell your story, tell somebody else's story, or tell a fantasy, tell something, a made up story. Once I started to understand that, I was like, oh, wow, there's like lots of different avenues to go about doing that. It doesn't have to be perfect. And so that's when I really started to write and just explore and have fun. Some stuff I wrote, I absolutely loved. Some stuff I wrote, I didn't like at all. And that was okay. So it's just about trying new things and being okay with the results, regardless if you like it at the end of the day or not. So, because the cool thing is when you write something, you can always change it later. So, but yeah, a song is just a way to communicate. It's a way to tell a story. It's a way to express yourself. And we're going to go into some practical elements in expressing feeling or expressing a story. So a couple different elements that has already been talked about. We talked about, I know Kat talked about rhythm in the last few, or last couple weeks. Rhythm was talked about quite a bit, and she did a lot with melody, which was fantastic. So if you want to dive into what melody is and different ways that you can go about learning it, I highly recommend you listening to Kat's presentation. But melody, harmony, and phrasing. So those are some 4 elements that I really take into consideration. So rhythm, it's the way that things move within a song. You can have a ballad where it's just everything's nice and slow. There's not really a rhythm, or I shouldn't say rhythm. There's not really a groove where if you're playing, there you can have a drum beat, you can have more of a groove happening with something like that. But then, so there's a rhythm element, you have your fast, you have your slow tempos. And then we go on to melody. Melody is a single line, it's what you sing, it's what gets caught in your ear, and it's what's attached to your lyrics. And Kat went over that quite a bit. We're gonna talk a lot about melody and how you can color that melody and color those lyrics with different harmony. So harmony, you can express melody through a very sad harmony, which a lot of times use like minors, minor chords, minor 7 chords. It also, there's lots of tension sometimes in your sadder songs. Sadder, I don't know. Yes, those sad, mysterious songs. But then other ways you can color those lyrics and the melodies. You can use a lot more uplifting of a feel, which a lot of times that's your major chords. A lot of times there's a little bit more of it's a medium tempo to faster tempo way to express those lyrics. So we're going to talk a bit more about that. And then you have your phrasing. And then your phrasing is like how you say your melody. So, I mean, because I'm a piano teacher and we all learn Mary Had a Little Lamb when you're learning piano, you can sing Mary had a little lamb, little lamb. That's super disjointed, and so that's one way to phrase it. That's not the way that we like to hear it, but that's one way you can say it. Or you can sing it so everything's connected. Mary had a little lamb, and so that's all nice and connected. So you can express these melodies in different ways as well. So, so let's go ahead. We're gonna come back to some of these definitions as they come back up. We're gonna use the song You Are My Sunshine, as we did last time, and we're gonna go ahead and color it in some different ways. So first, in case you're unfamiliar with this melody, which hopefully you're not, hopefully you're all familiar with this, we just sing it like this. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. All right, so we're gonna work with that melody and we're going to make the harmony very different as we work with it. So the standard skeleton harmony, when I say skeleton, it's just like the backbone of what makes this song move, is your 1, 4, and 5. So right now I am in the key of C major. So we're using our C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And we're using our C chord. We're using our, and when I say C chord, we're using your C major chord. We're using your F chord. And then we're using the G major chord. Back to your C chord. So these are all your major. This is what there's all the rock tunes are built off of these chords. Your blues are built off of, we call these your 1, 4, and 5. So C is your 1, F is your 4, G is your 5, and then back to C is your 1. So your 1, 4, 5 chords. The blues is built off of your 1, 4, 5. A lot of rock tunes use your 1, 4, 5. A lot of folk tunes, a lot of church tunes. 1, 4, 5 is a big backbone for a lot of standard tunes and folk tunes, just like You Are My Sunshine. So you have your standard F major, and these are all your triads. They contain 3 notes. and nice and happy, which is quite appropriate for the lyrics to this song. So in order to color this melody a little bit differently, we're going to make this minor. And to make a major chord minor, all you have to do is flat the third. Now when I say that, I mean in your C triad you have C, E, and G. So to flat the third, C is going to be your number 1, E is your number 3, G is your 5th, and so when I say flat the third, you're going to flat the third. You're going to flat your E flat. So E makes it major, E flat makes your C minor. So we're going to do that with your 1 chord, so your C chord, we're going to make it minor. We're going to do it with your 4 chord. So now we're playing F, A flat, C. And then for your G chord, you're going to play your G, B flat, and D. All right, we're going to go ahead and sing this the minor way. It's going to sound very, very different, and the lyrics will contradict how this feels. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. So very, very different feel from your major. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. Very, very different feel. So you can maybe you've written a song in a major key. Try just putting your minor chords behind it and see how it changes it. Changes the melody. The melody doesn't actually change, but the harmony underneath it changes quite drastically, and suddenly you have a very different song. Okay, so another one we're going to go over is your dominant 7s. So your dominant 7s this chord is built off of 4 notes. So we're going to take your C chord. We have C, E, and G. And let's see, Danny. Hi, Danny. So we have C, E, and G, and we're going to add our 7th. So our 7th is going to be our B, okay? And in order to get our dominant 7 feel, we have to flat the 7. So we're going to play C, E, G, and B flat. So we talked about the 1, 4, 5 being mainly in the blues. Oh, hello, hello. So we talked about the 7th chord being in your blues, and it's all built off of your 1, 4, 5. So we're going to take those same triads that we did at the very beginning, but now we're going to add the dominant 7 to every single one of those chords. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and sing the same melody over this harmony. I'm not going to change the rhythm just yet to the accompaniment, but let's hear what this sounds like. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. So there's a lot more tension here, but now this becomes a lot more fun when you have a walking bass line. So when I say a walking bass line, if you're playing with a guitar, you have to get a little bit more creative with this, or you can just have a friend of yours play the bass. That works too. And if you are in quarantine or wherever you are, you can have someone record a bass for you, so then you can play along with it. But anyways, so this is the bass line that I'm going to walk with. Super basic, nothing super fancy. But here we go. We're going to sing the same melody. I'm changing the bass so there's a little bit more movement happening. We have our dominant 7s. Here we go. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. Never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. So you can do lots more with that, but just by adding a walking bass line in a dominant 7, you can get the blues feel with it. You don't have to do a whole lot. You don't have to be super experienced in the blues in order to really start to learn about the sound. You just got to add those dominant 7s, and then you can go and start and to learn more from there. So that's a fun way to really color up your melody, is adding those dominant 7s. And now we're going to go ahead and add our major 7s. So dominant 7s, so lots of tension. Now with your major 7s, we are going to have the same notes, but we're not going to flat our 7. We're going to have 1, 3, 5, 7. And when we're using our C chord, that is our C, E, G, and then B natural. It's a very pretty sound. I love major 7s. A lot of songs I write have major and minor 7s all over the place. It's very, very pretty. So we're going to go ahead and do kind of the opposite of what we did with adding the dominant 7. We're going to go ahead and slow us down a little bit. And I'm going to try doing this sort of accompaniment. You can just, you know, whether you're playing guitar, just do a single strum. And then you're going to add your 7 on your F chord as well. So that would be F, A, C, E. Back to your C major 7, F major 7. With your G7, we're going to keep it as your dominant 7. And one thing that's special about the 5 chord in any key, G is your 5 chord in the key of C, is that it's generally going to be your dominant 7. So it's just how tonality works in Western music. So then we're going to go back to our major 7. So we have a major C major 7, F major 7, G dominant 7, back to C major 7. Okay, so I'm going to use a little bit of rhythm. So let's try this for the accompaniment. So I'm just rocking some of these chords, and I'm going to sing the melody over this sort of accompaniment. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. So that's a very fun way to make something sound very, very pretty, is you use lots of major 7s. And I love using this kind of rocking pattern. Another fun pattern to use is your arpeggios. Arpeggio just means a broken chord. So this is very fun. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. So same chord, but a very, very different feel because I'm using arpeggios instead of just a rocking chord pattern. So that's really fun to do. I use a lot of major 7s in my songs, I should say. Okay, so another fun thing that we're going to talk about is substituting chords. So a lot of folk tunes, like we said, it's built off of your 1 chord, your 4 chord, and your 5 chord. So in this case, your C, F, and G major triad. One really fun alternative is to use your 6 chord. So your 6th chord in the key of C major is your A minor. And just as a review, when I say these numbers, this is so that you can use these numbers with any key. So if you don't sing well in the key of C major, you can play in the key of G major and use these same numbers and they'll translate. So let's do a quick theory review with that. So in C major, C is your 1, D is your 2, E is your 3, F is your 4, G is your 5, A is your 6, B is your 7, C is your 1. Okay? So when we go to G major, it's the same number system, but we start on G because we're in G major. So G is now your 1, A is your 2, B is your 3, C is your D. Sorry, C is your 4, D is your 5, E is your 6, F sharp is your 7, G is your 1. So that is one. I like to use numbers so that it's really easy to play in whatever key that is needed. So we're going to go back to C major though. So yes, the 6th chord often can replace your 1 chord quite easily. So when we went back to we'll go back to our standard progression with this folk song. C major. We go to F major. Back to F major. C to G. So now what we're going to do is instead of playing C twice, we're going to play our C chord. For You Are My Sunshine, then we're going to go to the A minor chord the second time. So you are my, we're going to play C. Actually, sorry, we're going to do C twice, F, then instead of going back to our C, we're going to go to our A minor. So it'll sound a little bit like this. So now we're going to our F chord. Now we're going to our A minor chord. Back to our F major, to our C chord, to our G chord, to our C chord. So I'll do that one more time. So whenever you play your 1 chord, in this case C, you can also play your A minor, and it creates a little bit of a variety to those chords. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take that same substitute, but instead of starting with our C major, we're going to start with the A minor. So it's going to sound quite different. I've done this for the students that I'm teaching, the kids that are learning Jingle Bells. They're using A minor for Jingle Bells. It's very, very different. Almost sounds wrong, but anyways, so we're going to try this and see if it sounds how it sounds. We didn't use the C chord at all. We used the A minor, and every time the C chord could have been played, I played the A minor chord. And it's interesting because the minor chord can sound very dark, but because it's the 6th chord, it doesn't sound as dark as when we used our C minor, our F minor, and our G minor. So it's interesting when, depending on the way that you have your harmony structured and depending on the form of the song will kind of alter whether it feels really dark and sad or mysterious, or if it just has like a hint of that hint of sadness with it. So, or a hint of one artist likes to call it like when it sounds brighter versus it sounding darker, and there's a whole range that you can use in making your songs sound brighter, happier, or darker, more mysterious. So, okay, so yes, you're substituting your 6th chord for your 1 chord. It's a very, very fun trick. Another fun trick when it comes to creating a little bit more movement in your harmony is every time you go from the 1 chord to the 4 chord, so for, in this case, going from your C chord to your F chord, you can make that dominant. So we start with your C chord, So right there I made that dominant to go to my 4 chord. So that works whenever you're going from your 1 chord to your 4 chord. You can make your 1 chord dominant right at the last minute and it moves really nicely to your 4 chord. It has to do with the circle of fifths. We won't go crazy into detail with that, but that's a good way to create some more movement in your progressions. Okay, so moving on, we're going to go ahead and talk about a little bit about rhythm with your meter. So when you are deciding on what to play, oftentimes the melody, if you're somebody that the melody just comes to you, there's usually a natural meter. Some songs fit really, really nicely into 4/4. Some songs fit really nicely into 6/8 or 3/4. Other songs, the lyrics require you to have like a mixed meter, meaning maybe you have to add a 2/4 bar every now and then to get the lyrics and the rhythm in the poem to really line up well. And that's perfectly acceptable. There's a lot of songs I've played recently, there's a lot of mixed meter. When you base all of your melody on the lyrics, it works really well. And you just want to, commit to whatever rhythm pattern that you have and what fits well with the poetry of your lyrics. So this song, You're My Sunshine, is in 4/4. So very straight, very square. You're my sunshine, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So very, very simple. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and turn this into having a more like a triplet feel, which so here we go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're gonna see what the melody sounds like over a 6/8 feel. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it just gives it more of a rocking feel. You're going back and forth. The 3/4 meter is called the waltz because it makes you want to dance. So if you are stuck with only like playing in 4/4, one way is I just get in my head 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and you can start to play your chord changes based off of that. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so on. I know whenever I write songs, sometimes I get really stuck in writing the same thing over and over again. Like I said earlier, I love playing with major 7s and minor 7s, but sometimes you just gotta change it up. So what that's gonna go ahead and lead into the next thing I wanna talk about. And that is creating different parameters to help create, I don't like to call them rules, but they are very helpful for me whenever I get stuck in writing the exact same thing over and over and over again. So sometimes I write the same melody again. So even though I have new lyrics, I'm just singing the same melody. Or other times I've used the exact same chords. I'm in a new key, so that's good, but I'm playing with the exact same chords, and then I'm realizing, oh, this is just like the last 4 songs I wrote. So I like to create little parameters or rules, for lack of better words, to help break out of those habits. So when I was wanting to kind of explore that, I wanted to use, I was exploring a lot with thirds. So we went over this a little bit before, but thirds, if you're in C, a third would be going up to an E, or if you're starting back on C, going down to an A. So I wanted to move in thirds, and so what I decided to do was I figured let's try to move in tenths. So what that means is I started using a D major with your tenths. So D was in my bottom, and F sharp was at the top. And so I got really stuck writing the same thing again and again. So I gave myself a rule of I could only play 2 notes at the same time. And then I couldn't do a progression. And so I got really stuck writing the same thing again and again. And so it didn't matter what notes I used as long as 2 notes I was moving up or down by thirds. maybe there's an instrumental in there. So that's kind of the form of a lot of your pop tunes that you have. And some of those songs can feel like they are like never ending. And then other songs can be really long, but they just don't feel long. And oftentimes, if you have a well-written song that has a lot of contrast with the melody, with the phrasing, with your accompaniment, with the harmony, then you're able to and also with the feel, you're able to be taken on that journey, and 7 minutes can feel like 2. So the way that you structure your song really can engage a listener's ear to stay engaged the entire time. So, for example, let's see, we're just gonna go ahead and come up with something right now with this. So I'm gonna go ahead, play in D. So it's maybe da 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 da. So if you have something that's kind of more like a talking in the beginning, well, if we're doing a slow song right now, and this is the accompaniment, just little chomps here. You can do so much with just this. Let's go. Whenever I'm just making up a tune, I just say silly syllables if I don't know what lyrics I'm singing. But that could be like a nice little verse. And the phrases are kind of like short, and it's just kind of a spoken. To create a chorus per se, it might be fun to have something that's a little bit more sustained, since the melody we got going right now. So then we could go. So there's what works really well is if you have if your verses have a ton of lyrics in them, which you don't always need a lot of lyrics, but there's more like a talking back and forth, and then the chorus has long sustained notes or very few lines, one idea that's just continually coming back. It's a really fun contrast, so it gives the listener the chance to really latch onto that main idea, which brings me to the next point of when I'm writing a song, I want to think about like this one idea, and actually the song called, we all know it, Hallelujah, Leonard Cohen. But the chorus, the verses are full of lyrics. Lots of different stuff happening and being said during the verses. But then the chorus is one word. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. So and that's it. So, and that song is amazing. There's lots of covers for a good reason. It's a well written song, and the chorus is so simple, and that the verses have a lot more lyrics, a lot more melody, a lot more movement, And then the chorus just has that sustained hallelujah throughout the whole chorus, and everybody knows it. Choirs love to sing it. It's great. So having some contrast between each sections really adds to different dynamics, and really pulls a listener's ear throughout your entire song. So keeping a focal point and then creating a form that really creates contrast. If you're playing the same sort of accompaniment the entire time, without dynamics, without contrast, without different phrasing, it can get really daunting. And this is equal to just kids banging on the piano. It's just the same sound over and over and over again. Your brain is just like, hey, I've had enough with this. Let's try something else. So when you create all this different contrast with the way that you're accompanying, you can use the same chord progression for the entire song, but if you change the rhythm and the movement of the accompaniment, and then the melody has contrast between more rhythm versus sustained notes, that can create a lot of contrast to your song. So there's lots and lots of options when it comes to sitting down and going for it. And if you have any questions, for those that are watching, feel free you can ask questions as I continue to wrap this up. We got about 15 more minutes. So the other thing I want to go ahead and talk about is, so we have the form. Let's go back to this little melody that we're just coming up with right now. And then going to, let's call this the chorus. Now, so in the verse, I start on the 1 chord. To the 4 chord, I'm using a major 2 to a 5. So that would be an E major 7 to an A7, back to a D. Then I'm using my 4 chord into major 7. We could go to, so now I'm going to go 4 1 4 1. So in the verse I went 1 4 1 4, and now in the chorus I'm going to go 1 4 1 4 1. So then I'm playing around right now. So I may or may not keep that little walk down that I did. And then you can go back into another verse. With the chorus again. I think the verse, it moves pretty nicely. As far as lyrics is concerned, Kat is so great with all these lyrics. It takes me, it's a lot easier for me to come up with melody and form and all that. Lyrics usually have to work a bit more at. But all the exercises she said into developing lyrics, definitely do that. It's very, very, very helpful. Okay, so back to the chorus, and we're just making this as we go. So I'm going to my G chord, back to my D chord, to G chord, D, A over C sharp, and then I just walk down back to the 4. And then you can go back to the verse, but maybe we want to create a bridge. So far our verse started on our 1 chord, our chorus started on our 4 chord, our G chord. Another really great chord to create contrast, and this happens a lot in songs when you go to your bridge, is If your song starts on your 6th chord, so in this case our B minor, a lot of times the bridge either can change keys, but if we're going to stay in the same key, a lot of times you'll either use your 1 chord for your bridge or your 6th chord for your bridge. So let's see what we can do with that. So this is the chorus that we got going right now. And then bridge-wise, let's see what else we want to do. Maybe it's not even a bridge. Maybe it's just a little turnaround. Starting on the B minor. Let's go. And this isn't... I might change that walk down if I were to make this a real song. When I say real song, polish it. And it could be as simple as that, and then you could go back into the chorus. So I'm going to play that again. See. And then oftentimes too, sometimes when you have a little breath in there, it really is helpful. When I say breath, you let it rest, and then you can go back to... And now I'm just improvising back to the chorus. So this is kind of how I go about when it comes to me writing a song. Is I oftentimes I'll sometimes have the lyrics there and I'll be playing through the lyrics, but sometimes I just go and sit and see what kind of form I can make with different chord progressions, with different melodies. I'm not even concerned about the lyrics. It's just kind of creating some contrast within a song just by using your rhythm, the way that you're accompanying these chords. This is very, very simple, but it can be very effective, especially if you're singing with it. But if I want to create something a little bit more complex, I'll try different patterns. And so creating patterns that you may not be able to play just yet, because you've got to figure out the coordination between your hands and your voice and whatever it is else that you're trying to play, works really good, because for one, you improve your musical skills and your coordination, and then for two, you come up with patterns that, everyone, I shouldn't say everyone, but this is played by lots of different people. This little, you're just chunking out the chords. Happens with so many songs. But if you create using those same chords, which is why pop tunes can get away with playing the same chord progression as everybody else, but the reason why they can make it their own is because they create a different pattern that isn't as similar as, it can be the same chord progression, but if the rhythm is different and the accents are different, the phrasing is different, suddenly it's a new song, even though it's the same chord progression. So have fun exploring the different ways, the different rhythms, and how your hands can interact, whether if you're playing guitar, if you're playing keyboard, if you're playing another instrument. It works. It's quite fun. I love making my brain work and creating different rhythms between the hands, different patterns that my hands can't quite play yet. This pattern is, I'm just alternating 2 notes at the same time, which is quite difficult, and it's something that I have to practice to get nice and smooth. But it's pretty fun to kind of create new patterns and new ways of playing. So those are some really fun ways that I go about songwriting. at times I'll get stuck and I don't know where to start, or I'll write the same thing over and over and over again, and that's okay. If I'm going at it and I really want to progress in my songwriting, then I will do the exercises like creating rules for myself so I can only write, with certain notes or in a certain key. That has always helped me. Or I can only use certain rhythms. So restricting myself in certain ways has been very, very effective. This one fun way to explore a new melody is sing a melody over one chord. You can change the melody and just see what you come up with. You can, if I'm in, let's say, and you can just hold sustain, and you can start by singing just one note. And you can repeat patterns, but just see what you come up with. You could also go bum bum da 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 dum 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 da 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 dum dum da 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 dum 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 da da dum. And as you start to get these patterns, you're gonna start to naturally hear some chords that will go with it. So bum bum da 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 dum bum bum ba da bum dum dum da 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 dum dum dum. So that was my 5-chord. But that's a fun way to kind of start to explore different melodies. I'm trying to think of some other really fun ways to really get you out of the zone if you keep writing the same thing. But I do when it comes to lyrics, I do all the writing exercises that Kat explained when she did her presentation on songwriting with her experience. And then also with what a few of the others shared is I will pull from my own experiences. So I'll write from my own experiences. That has been a very helpful exercise that Kat for me to deal with things that are really difficult to deal with just by talking about it. Sometimes you just don't even know how to explain, but when you can either play it out or write it in lyrics and put it to a song, it's very, very, it's been very, very helpful for me to really be engaged with and work through situations that are not so fun to work through. So, hello, Alexis. So it has been, songwriting is definitely a source of life for me, and it's something that I do. I like to do it every day. But I do it several times a week, so it's not always every single day, but I do it several times a week. And sometimes it looks like writing down lyrics. Other times I get a lot of my lyrics sometimes from conversations or from even podcasts I listen to. It'll be like a one-liner. And one line that came to me, and it was like, I woke up unconscious, which obviously doesn't make sense, but I wrote a whole song based off of that line, which was quite entertaining to do. So those are some fun things. And then I play piano every day. Piano, obviously, right here is like my main instrument. Some songwriters play every instrument under the sun. I just really embrace the keyboards, and whether it's synthesizer, or I just love the acoustic piano too. So, but those are some really fun ways that I really engage with songwriting. It is a lifeline for me. It's really life-giving, and I love being able to put stuff together. I don't always love what the results of the song is, but that's not always the point. And then other songs that I really enjoy. So they get put together. Another thing that's very fun to do with your songs is sharing them with others that want to grow with you. So I share a lot of songs with other songwriters and musicians, and we give each other feedback. And sometimes it's practical, like we talked a lot of very practical things today. So whether it's like, hey, this form doesn't quite make sense, or hey, I kind of got bored here, or they'll give really helpful feedback of like, wow, that was amazing the way that you put it. I've never thought about that subject in that way. So there's been some very positive ways that you can interact by just sharing your stuff. And then other times I'll share songs and I'll be like, hey, I'm not ready for feedback yet, but I just want to share it just to see what it's like to share it. And that's really helpful. So hopefully you guys are able to do that with each other. I've done it a couple of times now through Zoom. And thanks to the world we live in at the time, technology is great that we can still connect with one another. But yeah, so that's about, keep writing, try new things. And it's okay if you get stuck in a rut, but then just try limiting yourself and see what you can come up with. But if you have any questions, now's a great time to ask. We're about ready to wrap it up. So hopefully this is helpful. And I know this is a lot of the same content from a few weeks ago, but we had some sound issues. So here it is again. And yeah, so hopefully, let's see, if you have any questions, I'll wait a minute or so. Otherwise, this has been an absolute pleasure to share with you. And I'm so grateful that I'm able to do it here. And you guys are still in Anchorage and able to get this information. So hopefully you guys can this was really helpful. And I think we'll go ahead and wrap it up since I'm not seeing any more questions. So have fun writing and sharing and getting your story out. And we have another class next week. She's fantastic. So make sure to tune in next week with it's a folk songwriter. She is great. So you guys will enjoy what she has to share too. All right. Oh, hello. Okay, I will see you guys